Good morning, everybody, and welcome to part 2 in our series of 3 trainings for new high schools for Direct Admissions Minnesota. This one today is on building the data, our virtual training led by our agency. My name is Aaron Salsek. I use he, him pronouns. I am the coordinator of Direct Admissions Minnesota. It is a privilege to work with all of you in this capacity and with this program that lends itself to future college-going success for our students and families at our respective high schools. I'm joined today by one of my phenomenal colleagues. Sally, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sally Krieger-Constantine, they, them pronouns. I am the Direct Admissions Research Analyst slash graduate student intern. I am the one who processes most of the data, and I will be the one also to help you during the process. If you have any questions or any technical problems, I would be the one to directly help you with that. So it's wonderful to meet you all.
Thanks, Sally. So for today, we have a couple of things that we're going to accomplish with this second training. And really, its primary focus is on building the data. Our first training last week covered the contracts for data sharing agreements, joint powers agreements, and invoicing. But much of the program revolves around this process. This is sort of the cornerstone under or by which all of the program revolves. And so we're going to do a quick project overview and background. All of our trainings will have that at the outset, just so you all have an opportunity to familiarize yourself with how the program workflow is conducted. We are going to speak a little bit about data and reporting specifically, and then also the specific role of the student information system. So we know many of you have different platforms that you orchestrate at varying levels, so we'll talk to that a bit. Today, we're going to introduce the academic review. And so we're not actually going to go into each specific student information system. That will be part 2. You will also receive information from me after today's training that is specific to 2 of our student information systems that are entirely set within the platform. But for today, it's a broad overview of the academic review and then followed by questions at the end. And so as we ground this program and we start with our why, again, the whole essence is to encourage students, particularly our seniors at our respective high schools, to encourage them that they are college material. Sally, can you mute that participant? Okay, thank you. All right, so to encourage all participants, our high school seniors, that they are indeed college material. And so it takes the mystery out of college access, and rather than our students in our state of Minnesota wondering whether and when they'll get in, it leads with that proactive survey notification saying you are in, and here's everywhere that proactively extends you admission. You can apply for free. And so it is designed to spark and supplement that college search that you all lead those efforts locally at your high schools. And our 55 participating colleges and universities are ready and willing to work with students and families to streamline the college admissions process. And so really, in a nutshell, it breaks with the old paradigm and the mystery of admissions and leads with, yes, we indeed believe in you. We want you at our institutions. And here's what you need to do next in terms of your college process. Now, in terms of the broad overview of how this is conducted, colleges and universities have already opted in. And so there's 6 respective tiers that we're going to be looking at in a few minutes where colleges choose their sort of comfort level and validate that they are willing to offer proactive admission to a student who resides in a specific tier. And so more on that in a few minutes. Students are matched into these tiers based on 1 or 2 criteria in tandem: their end of junior year unweighted cumulative GPA, and course letter grades in 3 core subject areas of English, science, and math. The other prerequisite is that students have to be on track to graduate. We'll dive into that a bit more deeply because we know we have ALC partners on this call. We know we have ALP partners on this call, Alternative Learning Center and Alternative Learning Program partners. And because of that, we'll just talk about what that means and how you can conduct the review for those students. So again, students are expected to graduate in early spring and summer of next year. This is for your rising seniors this year. They do have to complete the application steps that colleges communicate to students. And so when we see the program data workflow in a few minutes, you will see that it gets to the point where colleges sort of take over the program. And the follow-up from that point forward is really between students and colleges, which is intentional. We'll come back to that in a few minutes as to why we have set up the program in that way. This year, we're going to be actively pairing direct admissions with the free application for federal student aid and financial aid affordability conversations. We do know that a student is more likely to apply to college at all if they are a direct admissions participant. We know we're seeing results as a state in terms of our students staying in Minnesota and attending post-secondary education. But we also know that the early data is indicating when you pair that plus affordability, you see much more higher return on investment for students and families. And so do expect if you're a current partner on this call today and not a new high school partner joining us for the first time, do expect those changes coming in the fall as well, which I think benefits all of our students. So, and then the other thing that we really appreciate about this program, which you'll come to know if it's new to you, is that it's entirely of student volition. And so students aren't required to apply to any of the colleges on the list. They're not limited to those. And there is a true opt-out FERPA notification at the outset of the program, which is really the first point at which a student or a family can exit the program. After that, on the survey itself, students can always have the opportunity to choose, I'm not interested in direct admission. So do know that at all points in the program, it's student volition, and they are in the driver's seat, so to speak. All right, folks, if you haven't muted yourself, please do so as we continue through today's presentation. In terms of the broad overview, there's really 7 steps by which the program is conducted. And so at the outset of the program in the fall, high schools will send their list of rising seniors FERPA and Tennyson notification, which allows them to opt out per your local directory and data processes. We did cover this extensively in last week's training. If you did not attend that training, please know it went out to your primary contact for direct admissions, and that recording and the slide deck are available for your review. In terms of high school notification, there's a number of different ways in which that's conducted, and that is the focal point of today's training. It can be done within the student information system, or it can be done in conjunction with a student information system and some technology tools that Office of Higher Education manages. So more on that to come. Students then respond to their survey notifications, and they select their colleges of choice or top institutions that they're wanting to be directly admitted to. In that process, they then follow up with any next steps that are required of them. High schools do securely transmit data to OHI. At that point, that can either be automated if it's within the student information system, or we'll discuss how that's done in brief at today's training as well. Our agency compiles, quality assures, and then securely transmits that data and the fields that the student fills out to their respective college choices of interest. And from there, our colleges will contact students, follow up with them, and encourage students to take their next steps. Sally, if you could do me a favor and find participants who are unmuted and mute them moving forward.
I am not logged in as host.
Oh, okay.
Aaron, so unfortunately I cannot. Oh, there we go.
Folks, if you are not muted, please mute yourself. Okay, thank you. All right, so for today's training, we're really looking at those steps in the middle where the review is conducted. The FERPA Tennyson notification allows us to perform the academic review. All right. Perform the academic review, and then high schools will notify students through notification that makes sense locally and through the student information system as it's established. Now, specific to the high schools, there's that review of the end of junior year unweighted GPA and the course letter grades in English, science, and math for 2 tiers. We'll get specific to the tiers in just a minute. The notification of high school seniors through the survey of those schools that are willing, those colleges that are willing to extend proactive admission. Prompting students and nudging students to respond to the notification. We do know as counselors some of the challenges with email notification, but again, in this upcoming week's Wednesday's training, we're going to go through some creative ways that our current high school class cohort advertised the program to all of its seniors this past year. So you'll have lots of creative opportunities to employ at your disposal in the year ahead. Collecting the student responses and securely transmitting that data. That's either an active or a passive step. Sending those transcripts per your local process to colleges and universities that students select. And then providing us feedback into the student experience and opportunities for program improvement. We always welcome that. There's multiple surveys throughout the year that are seeking your feedback on how we can get this to its best possible instance, because we know those whom we serve are your students and we want to get this right. So to the specific high school tasks, we're really looking at the first 4 steps today as well. And last bit of timeline before we move forward here in a few minutes with the content of today's training on data and the academic review. But this month and next month, there's the opportunity to start sharing direct admissions information and materials with your high school juniors. All of you should have gotten last week the marketing toolkit sent on behalf of the agency Office of Higher Education. If you have not gotten that information, it was sent to your primary point person for the program at your high school, and you can always reach out to me. I can always forward you any content that's shared on behalf of the agency. May and June is also that time that your principals and superintendents will be signing off on those data sharing and joint powers agreements for the ability to share data, as well as the funding that we're able to disperse to you as high schools out of the program. And in general, we ask you just start familiarizing yourselves with marketing materials and preparing for the academic review. And so in terms of that process, it's high level. And again, we'll have a part 2 training that's specific to the different student information systems where you can learn how to conduct it locally. June through August, it's that continuation of planning for the review. You can start to order your direct admissions promotional materials, as well as start to load those FERPA notifications. And so again, just as a reminder, data sharing agreements, joint powers agreements, and FERPA notifications were the content of last week's training. This Wednesday's training will actually go through almost all of the marketing materials you have at your disposal, as well as future state marketing content, including how do you order print materials on behalf of the agency, where are those FERPA notifications located, and so on. And then lastly, once the program is underway and students start to receive their surveys and start interacting with colleges, it's just that reminder to your students and your families that those surveys have indeed been sent out, and nudging, and reminding and nudging students to reply and take advantage of the program and its benefits. Now, specific to today, that academic review is conducted anytime between June through October 1st. And so when Sally's talking about Google Sheets a bit later today, the reason for June, and more specifically even like mid-June to later June, the reason for that date is we are in the midst of our current program year, and that program year extends all the way through the school year itself, plus a little bit of time afterwards by which we'll clean and then basically delete out any of the data that we had received over the year. Those survey notifications can then specifically go out between those 2 benchmark holidays of Labor Day and Halloween. It could be prior to Labor Day if you're set and equipped, but I know a lot of schools wait because they want to see how their senior class settles over the summer, as well as you do have to wait the outset and the results of that FERPA Tennyson notification process to be sure that students are excluded who have opted out of the program altogether. Now, in terms of materials that you can start reviewing, in terms of the academic review, again, today's content, links will be in this PowerPoint to 2 of our student information system partners JMC and Infinite Campus. JMC will be running a webinar at the end of the month, and Infinite Campus has been with us for several years, and their documents will be shared actually later this afternoon to anybody who indicated they're an Infinite Campus student information system user at their high school. We also have all of our agency materials. And so there's our agency website, broadly speaking, but we also have direct admissions landing page. We have our toolkit that's available and accessible to all of you. And I know I've shared with many of you over time our YouTube channel, which actually is where all of our trainings, once they're conducted and posted, that's where all of our trainings live in posterity after our recordings are set. In terms of the next steps, from August through September, we are going to offer a part 2 training at the outset of fall, which will be specific to your student information system. I'll give you point in time updates for where we are with each particular vendor when we get to that section of today's training. I do have regular office hours for all of our high school partners. Sally is also able to meet with you outside of those times within her graduate school schedule. And my office hours are actually twice weekly in the fall. And so you'll have the opportunity to pop in as needed. And again, there's many different ways that we can connect at a time that's conducive for you. And then we do also have monthly outset emails at the beginning of each month, which will start in August and go through each of the deliverables for the month itself. In terms of data and reporting, there's a nice visual there if you happen to be a visual learner in terms of how the academic review workflow is conducted. And so you'll see at the bottom of this current slide that the academic review itself is conducted. The email survey notifications or letter survey notifications are sent out, which allows students to respond. That data file makes its way back to Office of Higher Education for the selections that students make, plus their fields that are they're willing to provide, either from the high school or in conjunction with the high school's data, as well as the supplemental OHI form, our agency's form. And then we transfer that data file to each of the colleges after we quality assure it. In terms of the student information systems, we're at different and varying points in the process with each of the 5 EdFi compliant MDE approved student information systems across the state of Minnesota. And so I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about where we are with each of them, because each can be used in conjunction with the program and its deliverables. So in terms of existing student information systems, Infinite Campus was our earliest partner, and it's fully built within their platform. And so you can actually conduct the whole program in conjunction with the grad planner in Infinite Campus. This past year, January, February, we actually also beta tested our JMC schools for the first time, and that is also now built entirely within their platform. So if you're an Infinite Campus and a JMC user locally at high school, our preference is that you conduct the program within those 2 student information systems for a number of reasons, but first and foremost, the data is quality assured, and it allows for, secondly, the quickest distribution of information to colleges so that we can streamline the whole program and that students can hear early and develop those relationships with colleges earlier than they would otherwise be able to if using other tools. If you are a power school using high school, they are actually building out a report within Power School at this time. My hope is that that is done sometime in July. However, July or August. However, we will have a training at the outset of fall with a point in time update on the Power School build and how it can be used in conjunction with Google Sheets to conduct the program. And so when we get to the part where Sally's talking about the Google managed tools from the agency, please tune in then, because Power School, high schools, you'll be using the report in conjunction with Google Sheets. And our last 2 student information systems, Skyward, which I know includes both Cumulative Q as well as 2.0, and Synergy, we're in dialogue with both of them. Skyward is actually in the process of also building a tool, but we don't have any sort of sense on the timeline about when that will be finished. And EduPoint Synergy and us, us being the agency, are still in dialogue. And so for Skyward, using Student Information System high schools, as well as for Synergy, please plan on using the Google Sheets process when we get to that a bit later in the presentation. For this next slide, the intent here is really just to show you sort of the complexity of the data flow as you look through the program. And this isn't anything you need to manage. So I just want to be clear that you don't have to worry about the intricacies of this slide. This is really the pieces that Sally and myself manage here at the agency. But I think knowing the scope, you can really see why the student information system partners and the build within those technologies are so critical, because there's so many different moving pieces, which are all ultimately to the benefit of those two partners groups, our students and our parents in the bottom right corner. So when we dive into the academic review, know that you are playing an integral role, probably the most integral part of the process, but it is a process overall with many moving pieces. So in terms of the academic review, there's really 5 overarching steps. And the first one is assessing students for whether they're on track for graduation. That can be conducted in your local process, per your local process, or within your SIS if there's a flagging mechanism within your student system. One aside I want to mention here is that if you are an ALC or an ALP partner, or perhaps you have a student where you're not quite sure if they are on track for graduation or not, you can still include them in the program if you are confident that they will be completed prior to the fall 2025 college semester start. And so we have partners who will include students at the get-go outset of the year that they're pretty confident the students will make up those credits. And or another option is you can always add them into the academic review at a later date and time. So if you'll remember, I mentioned that the current high school year is going all the way through June. We still have, and we still are receiving current student data and information as students change or elect for the first time their colleges of choice. And so know that that is baked into this program, because we want all students to benefit from Direct Admissions Minnesota. Once you've determined the final list of juniors who will be rising seniors, so 1 and 2, the next step, part 3, is determining the unweighted cumulative GPA within, again, either your student information system or by a local process. And so if you're, again, Synergy, Skyward, Power School, we're at sort of varying stages and varying tools there that are in development. But we do hope to have more for you in both some June trainings as well as at the outset of fall. There's one nuance when looking at the academic tiers in a moment, and that's that there's 2 tiers that really break out because they have the unweighted cumulative GPA and a qualifier of letter grades in those subject areas of English, math, and science. And so those 2 tiers are really the bands between 2.75 and 3.0, and a secondary band of 3.5 and higher. To round out this process, students are then assigned to the academic tier that they are placed into. So tier 1 is our most open access institutions. By the time you get to tier 6, that would be what folks would consider perhaps the more selective institutions of the 55 colleges and universities that are participating in the program. And so as you look at the academic tiers, on the far left column is the tier number itself. And again, tier 1 is the most open access, tier 6 is the most selective. You'll see in the second column over the unweighted cumulative GPA band on a 4.0 scale. And then the third and fourth columns are if there's a qualifier that ties those course letter grades in those core areas of math, English, and science. And so for tier 4 specifically and tier 6 specifically, it is a combination of the unweighted cumulative GPA and those letter grades in those subject areas. All of that ultimately yields a survey, which again is in conjunction with the student information system or the Office of Higher Education managed technologies. And then students will have the opportunity to select the institutions that they're interested in. It is not a finite selection. So again, we continue to receive information from students over the course of the year. We know that colleges, college choice options change. We know that life changes. And so students elect intentionally different options over the course of the year. So just wanted you to have a sense of that timeline for selections over the program's life cycle. So that's sort of the high level. And then I did want to spend some time here talking about the two different pathways for the data review. We're going to start with our student information systems that are established, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Sally, who will talk about how the Google Drive process works at a high level. And so within the student information system pathway, as I've said already, there's two that are entirely set up. Infinite Campus, you can use Graduation Planner in combination with the student information system to fully execute the program. That is also the case with JMC. And again, May 30th, they have a training that their technology platform is going to run. There'll be more information on that in a slide in a second here. In conjunction with Google Drive are our three remaining student information systems. So PowerSchool, which again, we're hoping that they build out a report internal to their platform, which can be leveraged with Office Higher Education tools. EduPoint, Synergy, and Skyward will probably largely have to be run within the Google Drive process for the upcoming year. If we look specific to Infinite Campus, as I've said a few times, they have been our longest partner in this work. And their materials are fully established. I will be sending, again, to anybody who indicated they're an Infinite Campus using high school, I'll be sending an email later today, which will have this Google Toolkit, as well as two print materials that can be shared with your technology specialists locally, which basically walk through the process of setting up the student information system locally to run the program. But again, all of that information for Infinite Campus is already established and set. GMC is pretty close, but we are also learning as an agency too. Sally and I will be at the May 30th training, and they have already promised, in the same way that Infinite Campus has set up documents that support the program, we'll be building out that Google folder component to the overall program. When they have their materials completed, we'll be putting that information there. But I did also want you to know, if you're a JMC using school, the link to register for the May 30th webinar is actually right here in this slide. And additionally, it's been sent, I think about a week or two ago, to your primary program lead for direct admissions, and they're recording it. So if you can't make it for whatever reason, I do know they plan to record the webinar, and we'll share that with JMC high schools after that time as well. So for part two, I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Sally, who again does a phenomenal amount of work for this program, including quality assurance of our data. But she'll speak to some more particulars of the Google Drive process. And Sally, just let me know when you need to advance the slide.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aaron. All right, so this is just a very high level overview of the Google Drive process and some of the things that we have created to help you complete the process with as little work as possible. So at the top of our screen, we have the academic review tier auto calculation sheet. This is a spreadsheet that we created that has a multitude of hidden formulas in it, and we will send it out to you. And you enter in your student information, so the name, the MARS number, date of birth, and you enter in the student's GPA and answer a few questions about their course average. And this will automatically calculate the tier for every student. It is really handy and it happens really fast. Once you have completed that sheet, you are going to move to the Google Drive student responses, and you'll see that down below. And you will paste, literally just copy and paste the columns from the auto calculation sheet into the Google Drive student responses sheet. And if you could change slides, Aaron. Once you have put the student information in the Google Sheet, all you have to do is send the surveys. And sending the surveys is very easy. Most of you have used Google Forms many, many times. When you hit send, you're going to come up with this on your screen. You see a sample of what the send looks like, and you just paste the email in. If you wish to change the message, you can. Honestly, it's about 50-50 on whether or not the counselors change a message, and then you hit send. It is an incredibly easy process. It does seem daunting at first. I'm going to be completely authentic. It does seem very daunting at first, but it is very seamless, and we've done this for many years now. So I think we have it in a way that will be easy to use, but also we can communicate with you very easily on how to use this. And there is also materials that we will share to help you walk through all of this. And that is everything I have.
Thanks, Sally. And again, part 2, we will have a deeper training into how to use the Google Drive toolkit. Moreover, we have a number of other resources that are available to you all really at any point in the program year, which for new high schools, that starts now. We have our agency website. We have that electronic managed tool, which just so everybody knows for future state, once the program year is done, we are building out and changing and modifying that to include a colleges section as well as a student portal. And so one of the primary components of this program is student agency, which also includes advocating with colleges and universities. And as such, their portal will have all sorts of cool resources to help them with college search, with how to talk to colleges or how to navigate a particular resource that they might need, and so on. Print materials, which again, if you can attend Wednesday's training, our print materials will we'll go into that at length, as well as how you can order those for the upcoming program year. You have us, your staff here at the agency, myself, Sally, and then 2 of our other teammates, Sarah Burkhart, who manages marketing and communications, and our assistant commissioner, Dr. Wendy Robinson, who does sort of high-level program management, including the grant and the legislative components as well. There's 2 advisory groups that help to govern the work of this program, and they also actually will inform best practices and needs. And so some of our best program materials have come out of those advisory groups. Standing drop-in hours, meetings, and other means of troubleshooting as needed. As we've said, trainings, these are an integral part of the program as well. The YouTube channel, and then communities of practice. And so in the fall, particularly, we're going to have just-in-time trainings at the outset of every month, which will go through the deliverables needed for that month, but it'll also be an opportunity for new high schools to have some crossover time with high schools that are considered more veteran. They've been in the program 1+ years, and just share best practices and what worked and what might not have worked, and learn together with one another. So I want to thank you again for attending today's training. My contact information is available to you. Many of you already have this information, but I'm going to leave this slide up there for a few moments. While I do that, I just wanted to say thank you again for everything that you do for this program, for students, and honestly for the bravery and integrity for committing to the program for the upcoming program cohort year, because we do know that it benefits students and families immensely. We do know that it increases almost all college-going behavior for almost any student who is a participant at a direct admissions high school. And because of those facts, we are trying to broaden this program across all of the states so that any high school and all of our students can benefit from all of its many benefits. And so thank you again for all that you do. I just wanted to express my gratitude because it takes a lot to implement the program, but that being said, we know the benefits are immense. So thank you, everybody.